Hey y'all, welcome back to Dr. Mandie Unedited, the show where I want to help you understand all of the research, writing, and PhD hacks to help you out on your academic journey. My name is Dr. Mandie, and I am a researcher and an academic editor. And today I'm going to try out a little bit different of a format in the podcast. My overall goal is that I want to offer information that is helpful, talk about things that maybe people are afraid to ask or that they are afraid to maybe know more of. And so today I'm going to break this down into a few different segments, try it out, and see how we like it. So today we're going to do the GOS, of course. That's for all of my wonderful non-academic friends who want to keep up in my life, and I really appreciate them for always supporting me and listening in. And then we are going to do three different segments. We are going to talk about a research problem of the week, a writing problem of the week, and a PhD hack. Before we get started, I have recently started a Discord page called the People PhD Pod. And in this case, People PhD Pod stands for People Pursuing Higher Degrees. The idea of this Discord page is that you can come and ask questions about your PhD, your writing, your research, your supervisor mishaps, your feedback, trials and tribulations, and get some answers from people like myself, but also I have some other very experienced academics on the group. So the link to join that Discord is going to be in the description below if you would like to. I'm very excited to get this thing started. I would also like to incorporate a monthly video call into the Discord in the future, as well as posting some prompt questions and some information to really help you out on your journey. So please go and look into the People PhD Pod on Discord. And then, yeah, if you're somebody that likes all of those little bite-sized bits of information, I post lots of tips and tricks on TikTok, and you can find me at Life with Dr. Mandie on TikTok. So Doctor is just DR and Mandie is Mandie. So make sure you check out some of those things to kind of help get your knowledge going. So for the goss this week, the topic is this guy named Jeremy Bentham. I was in a meeting recently with one of my UK colleagues, and they said the term, "You can wheel me out like Jeremy Bentham." And of course, I have no idea who this guy is, and I had to have the joke explained to me, which was like a little bit awkward. But one of the interesting things I find about the UK in general is that many times people will mention this really random fact or person or tradition to me, and I think like, hey, that's just like something that specific person knows about. But then when I get a little bit more into research, I discover that like a lot of people know these strange little things. It's like the whole of the UK knew this one thing and I didn't. So I'm still investigating whether Jeremy Bentham is more widely known in the UK or not. But for those of you that might not be familiar with this dude, let me tell you a little bit what he's about. So this guy was a philosopher. I guess he's the founder of utilitarianism, and apparently the most committed academic ever, because there is a university in London, I believe, called UCL. And when Jeremy Bentham passed away, and some of this might be lore, okay, some of this might be alleged and not necessarily factual, because there's a lot of really random things about this guy, but he apparently wanted to have his body preserved when he passed, and I think allegedly in his will he requested that he would be wheeled out for important occasions. Like just his whole body, you know what I mean? So, I think what had happened is that he wanted his head to be preserved in a certain way. And when he passed, the doctor attempted to preserve his head, and it didn't go so well. So now at the university, they actually have, I think it's not, I don't know if it's his body, but it's a wax head, a body, and then at the bottom at his feet is the poorly preserved actual head of Jeremy Bentham. And so yeah, apparently he wanted his head preserved in this technique that is a Maori technique called moko mokai, and apparently that is what they do to preserve the heads of high-ranking Maori men. Interesting, isn't it? So, yeah, Jeremy apparently wanted to be wheeled out for special occasions at UCL, that's the University College of London, and supposedly, but I don't think that this is factual. Supposedly, he got to sit at council meetings post mortem, and if there was a tie in votes, he got to be the deciding tiebreaker, which I don't know how a dead man would get to be the tiebreaker. But some other really interesting things he did. He made, I guess, like a panoptic, I don't know. He made some sort of prison where that was circular and you could watch the inmates at all times without them knowing that they were observed. He was also an early animal rights advocate. He didn't want them to suffer and claim that, yeah, they had the capacity to do so. And then he was also, I guess, supporting women's equality, freedom of expression, the decriminalization of homosexuality, the right to a divorce, and then abolishing slavery and capital punishment. So, really interesting guy. A lot of things that I need to learn about, but yeah, I don't know. I just think it's so funny when living in the UK. Sometimes you just come up with like these really random things, and you get to know a lot about them. So let's move on to the research portion of the podcast. Like I said, I'm gonna do a section on research, a writing tip, and then a PhD hack. Okay, I'm gonna call the research section a research reality check section. Okay, and this is going to be on a topic in research that I see people struggle with. And this week I want to talk about organizing references, organizing your papers, and I want to talk about a program that I use called Zotero. Now, the thing is that I see a lot of people are still printing out papers, putting them in binders, highlighting them manually, or you have a file on your desktop, on your laptop that you are putting all of the PDFs from that you're finding in databases into. Zotero, and there's a couple of other reference managers. I think like Mendeley is another one, but Zotero is completely free. And it also has a bunch of widgets and plugins that I will talk about in a second. But it's important to organize your material because, yeah, I mean, it's just going to be all over the place. It's hard to keep track of it manually. But I don't know. I don't know. Maybe people have a reason that they do that, and I'm not sure. Maybe if people print things out because it's more accessible to them, or maybe it's just something that you're comfortable doing, and you don't want to have to learn a new trick. So if that is the situation, if you are just a little bit worried about learning a new digital platform, it will save your life. It will save your life if you just learn something like Zotero. So, what Zotero does is you can basically put all of your PDFs in one place. You can highlight information, you can create tags for information and like group similar papers. It also brings up automatically all of the information that you need, such as a DOI, an abstract. But the really, really cool thing also about Zotero is that you can get a widget, I believe that's the correct term, that you can download onto your browser. And if you are searching for papers and you find a paper that you want in your database, in one click, you can save that to a folder within Zotero. So that's all you have to do. You don't have to download the paper, put it in a file, print it off, or put it in a file, go back, have to look for it later. It's all there in one thing in Zotero, right? It also has a really great Word plugin as well. So if you are somebody who struggles with inserting citations while you're writing or keeping track of references for your reference list, the plugin for Word, you can actually just, like click the paper that you are using within the little pop-up for Zotero, and it will automatically create a citation for you in the format that you want if you're using APA 7 or whatnot. And then it will also create a reference for you. So overall, it's just a really, really great way to manage literature, okay? And if you are struggling with that, I would highly, highly recommend you try out Zotero, because it really is important that we keep track of things as organized as possible. And really, when you're using a digital platform, it's as easy as it gets with organization. So let's go on to our next topic. We're going to talk about writing next, and I'm going to call this section Write It Right. So this week for Write It Right, what I want to talk about is capitalization. Because one of the things that I notice when I am editing papers and dissertations and theses and all that good stuff is that people tend to make up the rules when it comes to capitalization and other things in formatting. Okay, so when I'm talking about formatting, I mostly talk about APA 7 because that is what I mostly see, not only in, like dissertations from the US, but all over the world in different journal articles and things like that. So we are exclusively talking about APA 7. But one of the biggest issues that I see are people trying to capitalize things, and I know to bring importance to those things, but there are specific rules around capitalization. And so the biggest one that I see is people trying to capitalize things like disorders, different concepts, and theories is the big one. So APA 7 is what is known as a down style. And that basically means unless there is something, a specific rule that your manual states about capitalizing something, then you're not going to capitalize any word that is not specified. And I'm going to talk about the difference between title case and sentence case and some of those rules in a second. But unless it is the first word of a sentence or the first letter of the first word of the sentence, or a proper noun with a name of somebody or an organization, you do not capitalize those words. So when we are specifically talking about disorders, diseases, therapies, treatments, theories, or concepts, this is where I see most people wanting to capitalize words. And so, yeah, you don't. So unless there is the name of a person in one of those terms, you are not going to capitalize anything. So if you have Maslow's hierarchy of needs, you're going to capitalize Maslow, but not hierarchy of needs. If you have terms like Alzheimer's disease or Down syndrome, you're going to capitalize the person's name. And yes, Down is a person's name, but not the other word. If you have theories like the theory of life, I don't know, the theory of collaboration or something like that. You are not going to capitalize any words in those theories. Now, let's talk about title case versus sentence case for a second, because this is also a little confusing about when do I capitalize things where. So, title case is when you are going to capitalize every major word in a title that you're using in the text, okay? So, things like books and journal articles and the names of web pages, you will capitalize all major words in that title when you're using that title in the text. Other places you're going to use title case will be, of course, the title of your own paper, headings, and the titles of tables and figures. Now, sentence case is when you're only going to capitalize the first letter of the first word and any proper nouns within a title. And this happens mostly in the reference section. So the titles of books and journal articles in the reference section should be in sentence case. So again, that only means that you're capitalizing the first letter of the first word and any proper nouns, any names of places and things like that. So that's a little bit confusing because a lot of people are not necessarily sure when to capitalize all major words in a title or when not to capitalize all major words in a title. So if you are using a title in the narrative, you're generally going to use title case. Again, check for different rules, but when you're going to use sentence case is mostly going to be in the reference section. And so I see a lot of people capitalize or using title case in journal articles, specifically in the reference section. However, in the reference section, you're not going to capitalize every single word in the title of a journal article. And you need to really check, because I know I just talked about Zotero, y'all, but I think most referencing tools do this in some sort of way, and you need to check because a lot of reference tools will automatically put your references into title case. And so it's really important to like really double check that. So even if you are using something like Zotero or Scribr, you will likely need to go back and manually make the reference into sentence case. And for more information about capitalization in APA 7 specifically, you can of course go to the website apa7.org, I think it is. They have a lot of good information on title case and sentence case. And then for those rules that I said about like diseases and theories and such, you can find the rule for that in the mechanics of style section in the manual. You can probably also find it on the website, but I've just got it on the manual here. And that is section 6.16 in your manual. And I know like a lot of these referencing rules are really hard to follow, but the reality is that if you expect to go into research after your PhD or something like that, it's not going to be the last time that you use these things. And I've seen papers be rejected simply because they use title case in the title of a reference instead of sentence case, So it really is important to learn these rules, even though I know they're complex. I know there's a lot of variations on them, but they're just super important. So yeah, go back and read some of those things and refresh your brain before you get writing. All right, so PhD tip of the week. I want to talk about feedback. And so feedback is something that I think we all struggle with. We just don't want to admit that, maybe we've done something wrong. And for myself personally, I hate to be wrong, and it's taken me a really long time to kind of change the way that I think of feedback, being like a critique, but more so rearranging your thinking to see that it is Like, it's more so just like guidance. It's a way to, get better about it in the future. And so I know that feedback can be really intimidating at first. It can make you just want to stop everything you're doing and be really, really frustrated. But I just want to share some tips on how, you can use feedback to your advantage. So first of all, yeah, like let's just normalize it. Don't spiral out about feedback. Normalize it. Everyone gets tough feedback. And so the strategy that I've been using to, kind of grow from feedback is to read the feedback. Step away. I know that I tend to have all of these thoughts. I'm like, well, they just didn't understand that I was thinking about this. And I meant to say this. And it's frustrating that they didn't see that. But, just step away, have that little, mind dialogue if you need to. And then maybe in a day or two, and this is where I find that, dealing with these kind of things is really, really helpful, is just pausing, coming back to it at a later time, and then reading that feedback again with fresh eyes. Because I feel like for myself, that once I've taken the time, like I think it's just natural to go through, that whole like little process of like, oh my gosh, somebody said I did something wrong. But then, you come back and you can see through it maybe more objectively in the next round. You can see, more rationally, like, okay, hey, I do see the issues, and now I have more of a clear mind on how to fix them. So when you get that feedback, read it through and then break it down into actionable steps. So for each comment or each, maybe issue that you've received feedback on, just think, okay, what are the things that I need to do to make that better? Write those things down, maybe. Oh my gosh, I don't know if you can hear, but there is the ice cream truck coming through the town right now. That's a whole different situation in the UK, is these ice cream trucks, because it is the middle of the day. There ain't no children out there, but they're still here. Anyway, feedback, break it down, write those things that you're going to do to, do better on those things that someone gave you feedback. And then, yeah, just have like a little encouragement to yourself. Remember, feedback isn't it's not a verdict. It's not telling you that you're dumb or you're stupid or you're just bad at writing or research or whatever it is. It really is a roadmap to improvement. And like I said, I've struggled, feeling that feedback can be really critical. I've struggled with, like my own feelings towards the feedback, because I'm always like, oh, if I could only just give them the context, then, they wouldn't have left this feedback. I struggle with that myself. But coming back with a clear head and then really understanding how you can improve, showing those people that you can improve from feedback, I think goes so much longer than, just completely spending a lot of time just freaking out about it. I want to leave you guys with a question of the week. Again, yeah, you can feel free to answer this question in the comments, take it to the Discord channel, or yeah, you get a hold of me some other way and discuss. I'm always happy to discuss these things. The question of the week is going to be what we talked about in our research section with printing things out. So if you're somebody who prints out papers to read, I want to know why you do it. So is it about focus or memory, or is it just because of the joy of scribbling in the margins? Or is it a situation where you're just not sure how to organize any other way? I want to know. Feel free to give me the answers, and maybe I'll talk about some of those answers in next week's episode. In the meantime, if you need some help with your editing, please feel free to reach out to me at my email. So that's mandiekf@gmail.com, MANDIE kangaroo foxtrot at gmail.com. Or you can check out my website, www.drmandieedits.com. And I would be totally happy to edit your dissertation, your thesis, journal articles, coursework, what have you. My goal is to to return something to you that is going to make you a stronger researcher and writer. And then, yeah, if you need some other help in life, be sure to check out that Discord. The link is going to be below. The People PhD Pod on Discord. And for anything else, find me on my social media. Everything is linked down below, guys. In the meantime, I'm gonna go try and catch that ice cream truck. There's a completely different context to the ice cream truck, y'all. I'm not actually gonna go try and catch it, so don't try to think that I'm out here doing something crazy. In the meantime, see ya. Bye.